You are tuned in to the Insights with Chishimba Malisawa podcast, where we discuss business, relationships, and life in general. Please stay tuned. Hello, friends, and welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Insights with Chishimba Malisawa podcast. If you're joining us for the first time, be at home because this will be your new home. And if you're coming back again to listen to this podcast, I'm so excited and I'm so grateful that you're part of this family. Okay, so as per tradition, I start my podcasts with a joke, which is ironic because a lot of people think I'm too serious. Okay, so here's the joke of the day. I am so good at sleeping, I can do it with my eyes closed. Did you get that? Okay, yeah, I hope so because it was funny to me. Okay, so getting right into what our podcast episode is about, I got a question from Oliver from Kitwe, and I was trying to find out how he can open a cosmetic shop in Kitwe without capital. So he doesn't have capital for it, and I was trying to have me tell him some of the ways in which he can raise the money to start the cosmetic shop. And it was very exciting for me to be able to tackle that question, and I thought, why not turn it into a podcast episode as well? So I'll be answering his question, but also sharing a lot of insights into the business starting point as the topic of the episode reads. Every business starts with an idea. Every business starts with a concept, and most of the times this concept or idea is the big picture. You know you want to open a university, but in the real world, you're just not going to wake up one day and find resources to open a university. You need to have a starting point, which does not look exactly like that idea that you have. For example, somebody who opened a university a few years ago first started by selling pamphlets. For example, this was my encouragement to him. Why don't you start from the streets? Why don't you order 1 perfume, 2 perfumes, 3 perfumes, and see if you can try to sell them on the streets? And once you try to sell those products, you get more insight into what business is all about. You get more insight into how the market is, how people perceive these kinds of products, and then you have more and more knowledge. And this is my encouragement to people. Even if something that you're starting with is not in line with your big picture, it still gives you insights into what business is all about in general. You get insights into what it means to have a loss, what it means to have profit, and you also understand that success can sometimes be as destructive as failure, because some people make some profits and all of a sudden their lifestyles change. They make some profit and all of a sudden they want to elevate their standards, and so in that case, success becomes as destructive as failure. So there are certain things that you get to understand simply because you tried a business at some point. And this is why we see people with enough capital, but they are failing to do the basic things that are required in a business because they thought that all it took was to have a certain amount of money and all their problems would be solved. So my encouragement to this young man was, and my encouragement to you as well listening to this podcast, is find a starting point. Find a starting point and quit, fantasizing about how you're going to just open this university. Because like I said, for somebody to be in a place where they're able to run a larger entity, they at least should be coming from a background where they've tried to run something smaller. So what kind of business have you been conceiving? What kind of life have you been conceiving? What kind of a success story do you want to tell? All that is dependent on your ability to go out and try. There's not a point in your life where you feel fully prepared for something, but it's always important to start from where you're comfortable. It reminds me of a scripture in the Bible where Moses was met with a challenge and he was asked to use what he had. And that is one of the most important parts of the Bible for me, because it talks about starting. Because he was reserved. He was like, but... And then God told him, use what you have and do this miracle. So whatever it is that you have as the potential of elevating you to where you want to be. Now let me talk about capital, because a lot of people castigate us for saying capital is not the most important thing. I got to understand that, because I started from, I don't want to say I started from nothing. I want to say that I did not start from a point where someone gave me money to say, here, go and, start this farming business. Here, go and start agriculture. I started from what I had. What are the skills that I have? So I used my skill set of web design, my skill sets of graphic design, of business branding and the likes, all these things that I do. And I raised that necessary amount of money for me to rent a farm at first, and then start from there. And then I started building from there. So in essence, it's not about somebody coming up to you and investing in you. It's about investing in yourself first, understanding what is it that I can do that can help me raise money. And so in that sense, I always justify the fact that it is not capital that makes you a successful business person, because even if you have capital, the chances are that you will fail, especially if you are new at business. But if you've tried something before, as you are trying that thing, you'll be raising capital to elevate yourself and begin to do something bigger. Business growth is growth in essence, just like everything else grows. And I always encourage people to say, treat a business like a baby, because you not ask a baby that was born today to start solving your problems for you. You will not ask a baby that was born today to go and get the remote for you. It's always a process. So even in a business, as you are starting, this is always something that I encourage people to say. When you're just starting a business, please make sure that you don't bombard it with all your problems just as it is starting. Give it time to grow. Give yourself, time to understand the dynamics of business. Give yourself also a chance to grow in the business field. And this is why we always encourage people to say, try to find your own capital first. Start with smaller amounts of capital first, so that you'll be able to have an understanding of what it really takes for you to run a particular business. Okay, so capital is not the most important thing. Capital is just something that aids you in the success of a business endeavor. It is not the most important thing. So ask yourself this question, okay? Because a lot of people are like, what if I don't have skills and the likes? So ask yourself these questions. What habits can you change that can help you save money? What do I mean by this? I always give this as an analogy. There was a certain lady that approached me, it should be some few months back, and she was telling me that she was in debt. She had she was owing people money, she had debt here and there, and then she was failing to sustain herself by the day. And I asked her, what are your habits? What are things that you spend money on? And she started outlining. She's like, groceries. I'm like, yeah, good. She's like, electricity bills. That's valid, yeah. And then she got to a point where she said gym, and I was like, what? She was in mountains of debt, but she was still going to the gym. And I told her to say, look, I'm not saying it's not important to keep fit. I'm saying there are many ways to keep fit, and gym is not the only way. So you can substitute certain things with much less costlier habits. So let's say, for example, you spend so much money on going to the gym, because gym subscription is not cheap. So that money that you're spending, you can easily download an app with a 20 megabytes, from Google Play or Apple Store, and you can begin your exercising journey. That is what I did. I've never stepped foot in the gym before. I've seen gyms and everything. Even the time I was in Europe, the gym was a few blocks from where I was. But then I knew if I spend so much money on gym, then I will not have enough money to do this with. So at the end of the day, it matters the things that you do and what you can substitute them with. If you have a problem and you buy clothes every month, you can change from such habits and begin to save up that money. If you say, I buy 3 shirts every month, start buying 1 shirt in a month. Start buying shirts after a month or after 2 months. Those are some of the habits you can transform yourself from, and then you realize that you've had capital all along. So you can change from some of the habits that you have and see just how much you can save. You can change from having conflicts in the morning to having something maybe a little bit different. And I always say this, it's not always comfortable to start a business. It's not always comfortable to raise capital, but a lot of people want to be comfortable at the onset. And this is what I was telling you about a baby. For a newly born baby, that baby has to be cared for. You have to be there for the baby. You have to change his diapers. You have to change her nappies. And you have to do all of these things for this child before they can get to a point where they can do that themselves. And sometimes it takes 10 years. It takes more years for them to be nurtured into who they are. That is the same thing with a business. So nurture that business and nurture yourself into running that business so that you have the necessary knowledge, that you have the necessary skills that you need in order to run that business. So reduce on the amount of monies, of kwachas, of nairas, of dollars that you spend on certain things, and then you see that you always add capital. If you spend 5,000 kwacha in a month on groceries, why don't you ask yourself, what can I change, what can I tweak around so that I can move from spending 5,000 to spending somewhere around maybe 3,000, 3,500, and I'll save the rest in my savings, and then I'll start a business with this, and then that becomes something that is doable. So there are always things that you can change about your routine, about your day, that will help you understand or begin to have proper management skills, proper money management, proper understanding of some of the things that you can change about yourself. Okay, so capital, therefore, is not the most important aspect of a business because it can come from a lot of places. The most important thing is, can you run that business? And one of the ways in which, nature just aligns itself. It's just so amazing. It aligns itself. It helps you learn and learn and learn. So start from a point where you order those perfumes, you take them to the streets. You don't have to be ashamed. Shame is an hindrance to marketing. It's an hindrance to business. So just go out there and market that product. Just go out there and sell that product, and then see the capabilities that you have. Because we've seen some people have big shops, but they still send people on the streets to say, go and sell perfumes, because sometimes perfumes sell better on the streets than in a shop. Especially in places like Kitwe, where there's just so cold, in places like Lusaka, you find that things sell better on the streets because there are a lot of people on the streets. So when you start from there, you have an understanding of what happens on the streets, and this is why some people are able to send people back on the streets, because they've been there. So it's very easy to understand and analyze the things that you've done before. If you've been a student before, you can easily run a university because you know what happens there. If you're just a dropout from somewhere and you don't understand the dynamics of a university, then your school will be lacking. So unless you employ more people to help you understand that, then it's difficult to find success that way. So having a starting point helps you gain the necessary knowledge, the necessary understanding, and the necessary skills that you require for you to lead, or for you to have a successful and smooth running business. This has been the Insights with Chishimba Malisawa podcast. If you want your question to feature on our next episode, then send us a message on +260 961 838 217.